now we're in the Babel generator folder in packages, and yeah, I don't know how we're gonna do that other than document all that stuff. So we have every package has a source folder, and right now we're looking at the part that's. The nice thing is that since we're dealing with TypeScript, there's just one file for that, so the TypeScript file, and then the tests. We'll do. Well, we can do that now actually. Might as well do it earlier, right? So there's fixtures and there's a bunch of folders, a lot of them. So we'll just look at one of them just as an example. So there's this arrow function something. So there's an input file and there's an output file. And I mean, I think in this case, I feel like we could probably change it so that if the output is the same, you could just put the input file or something, right? Then you wouldn't have to create two files. But all we're checking is that Babel outputs the same thing as the input. It might be different based on like white space or something like that. So in this case, we just want to make a new folder. So I guess we'll call it like, where is it? What do we want to call this? I don't know. Import. Oh, we could call it the name of the node, right? TSImportType or something.
Yeah, import type.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna make a new folder in here. I'm really bad at this. Okay. Import. It's just import type.
Yeah, it's the name of the node.
Okay. Import type, and then we're gonna make a new file. Input.js.
You might want to prefix it with types because I think all the type specific stuff has been like type dash import maybe. I don't know.
Right.
It doesn't really matter.
Types. Let's see. Yeah. Okay.
It's not a huge deal. Anything relatively descriptive is probably good.
I haven't written this in a long time, so I feel like I haven't written like actual code in a while. Output.js. Okay, and then the nice thing is we already. So another thing about making this PR is that like everything in this PR is very well defined already. And so I don't have to think about like make all these decisions that like they're already made for you. And so the code that we're trying to print, I mean, we can just reuse the parser stuff. Actually, that might be interesting too if we could like
just take parser code and generate tests. Yeah. Because you're right. I mean, it mirrors it pretty nicely.
Like it's kind of like why wouldn't we want a test for every parser test, right? Where is that? Okay, so one is like if. So I'm just doing this because it's like we might as well like figure out what we can change with our process. So like if the output is going to be the same as the input, why even require an output.js, right? I think we already did this somewhere else. I just don't remember. And then, is there a way to reuse the parser tests? I mean, you would hope that that would be the case in everything else, right? It's like we ideally would want.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no reason the two should diverge, right? Like we shouldn't be able to parse something we can't print, and vice versa. So.
Yeah, I think we knew this. It's just like hard to actually implement. Like, yeah, there's no reason to have 3 different files that have the same thing. Although it's true.
I think part of it is we just didn't want to. We just wanted to use the same test helper stuff infrastructure. And didn't, we just got lazy.
Yeah, no, it's just that's something to think about. Because it's like. What's it called?
Well, it's certainly unnecessary work, right? Like we're just a ton of duplicated effort on writing parser tests and then the associated generator tests too.
I would say another thing is that usually none of these things you don't like. You add these tests, you usually don't have to change them, right? It's usually like a append only type thing, unless there's a bug, and then you have to modify it everywhere, which that kind of sucks because you have to review it in all those places. And also like even like creating these, like why do I have to like manually do all this stuff too, right? creating a folder and file every time, all that
I
stuff.
think also if we make it dependent, it's nice because any parser PR would sort of break if we can't print it.
Yeah, that's good too. Okay, so this is the input, and then why do I have so many files? Oh wait, what? Dang it. Okay. Okay, so we made the folder, and then we have your input and the output, and they're the same. And then so, oh, I guess it doesn't like run if you don't change something here. So it should fail. Something should fail. And this error message is actually going to be useful. So it says unknown node of type TSImportType with constructor node, which might not make sense at all, but I've seen it before, so it makes sense to me. It's just saying that when Babel gets to that node in the AST, it doesn't know how to print it. And this part's kind of straightforward too, where we're in our generator TypeScript file, and we just need to make a new function with the same name, and then make it print whatever it needs to do, right?
Yep.
So I don't know if there's already, I don't know like how we sorted this. It probably doesn't matter.
It's not. It's completely random.
Okay. So.
But yeah, generator is a great
it's right.
entry point for people to contribute, because it's pretty self-contained, which is nice, right? Basically, each node winds up having a function associated with it, and that's just how the package knows how to print it.
Right.
And so it's really, really cool and fairly straightforward to kind of contribute to generator, because and what's great too is it's also, if you're interested in other projects, work on the generator is very simple, very similar to working on projects like Recast or Prettier, because they essentially work in the same sort of manner, in that, you know, you get an AST. As you traverse the AST, you hit a node with a particular name, and you're basically just instructing how to print it, right? Here's a paren, here's this, and so yeah, it's a great way to get involved and great way to contribute for sure.
We should probably show the. I wish I could like see this in AST Explorer, but it's kind of like why I want that thing where we like every time we make a PR, it rebuilds everything, and then you can just view all that stuff.
Yeah.
I guess I could just make it manually, or copy this, right?
What, to just show the AST for the node?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I would just maybe just copy paste into like a side pane in VS Code.
Okay. It just sucks because I want to get rid of all this stuff.
Yeah.
We only need one, so I guess it's not a big deal. Okay, let's. This is kind of annoying, but it's fine.
Yeah, so I mean, generator basically takes this whole thing and then just goes down it, right, and tries to print, just outputs a string based upon this. And basically the error that Henry saw or mentioned earlier is it hit a particular node that has a type that Babel generator just doesn't know how to deal with. We could probably improve that error message a bit. It's a little cryptic.
I think that's good.
Yeah, so Henry's just kind of pruning this AST treatise so that we can just see the actual node that we're trying to print.
So the code that we're trying to look at is this Z import thing. I don't know if this is too small, but hopefully it's fine. Yeah, I don't, whatever. Okay, so we talked about the different like attributes already. So there's like, well, there's the actual TSImportType, which is this whole thing, and then the first thing is the argument, which is this string Z, and that's why there's like string literal and then value Z argument, and then there's this qualifier thing, which is this part technically, and then there's like a foo bar, that's these two parts. And then the type parameter part, I guess I already deleted it, but there's the, oh, actually no, that's just string keyword, I see. Okay, So this is the part, and basically when Babel generator it sees this type, TSImportType, it doesn't have a function to print it, and so that's why it says like unknown node of type TSImportType right here. I guess the actual error is like, yeah, if there's no method, right? And so all we have to do is make that method, and so we could probably just do like a like TSImportType. I think if we don't do anything, so we should just do that. It should work, or that error will go away at least. So let's, all right, let me keep this code thing here. Okay, so we save, and let's see. So we actually have an error that, okay, so there's two errors. So this is, I didn't realize what this is, but I looked at it and it's actually the types thing. Our Babel types, we have a test for that, which is good. But we can do that later. Oh, actually, well, do you want to do that? Should we do that now?
It's fine, either way.
Okay, let's do this one because it's more straightforward, I guess.
Yeah.
Or the other one just because maybe it helps. Okay, so let's see what happens, or what. So we didn't get what we were expecting, and the input code is this, and the receive was this. And what happened was, because we didn't actually print anything, all I did was remove all that stuff. And so we get what we would expect if we removed the types. Well, actually, it's still in a syntax error because there's that colon. Let's see. Let me check something. Okay. And so, I mean, actually, this is a good way of just like printing out random stuff and seeing what happens, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So like if we just printed like import, I guess I kind of wish this was faster, but so now it just printed import. So like literally whatever we put here, it'll show there. We could put like spaces or other keywords. I don't know if you can just, I've never done this, you just put random stuff. Yeah, see? So it just prints out whatever we put here. And so in this case, we're trying to print out this whole thing. And so this first part is actually correct, right? And then we want to print out this parentheses. And so I guess we don't really have like docs on this per se, but like
sure don't.
and it's more like Acorn stuff too, and I think like they have the same stuff, but what we have here is like word, which I guess is just any alphabetical word. You use word. I don't even know why, but so we want this, which is a token, so we can just like I don't know if you like what happens if you do word with like this or something. Like I'm assuming it still works, but I have no idea. We're all learning here. It still works, but we shouldn't do that. Okay. So we're gonna do the token, and so if we do that, it should print out that, which is correct. And now we want to print out the string, which is a little bit different because the string itself is an actual node. If we go back to this, like string is the actual string literal. We want to print out the string literal. We already have like a way of doing that. And well, actually, this is its like you can like these are its own nodes itself. So if we already have a way of handling that, we can just call a different method. So remember, this is like an object, and so it has like properties like node.argument. And so what we're doing here is there are other code that does that somewhere. Let's see. Wait. Print. Oh, okay. Yeah, like this stuff. So these are all like, oh, see, they did this destructuring over node. I guess that's how we're doing it now, huh? Interesting.
Oh, sorry, I realized I was on mute, but the word versus token stuff is important for white spacing.
that's really cool. Okay, that makes
So
sense.
like if you put a word that you want to use Word in the case where white spacing is important, because remember, generator will handle stuff like breaking lines or other things in general. So
right, because that means it's um, like it could just be a syntax error because you need spaces between keywords and stuff, right?
Yep.
Okay, so someone asked, what if you put a word into this dot token? Well, I guess it's the same thing then. It's like it won't have the space, right? Because I guess with tokens, it's just there are no spaces then, right?
Yeah, imagine stuff like the plus sign or the exclamation point, etc. Like
Oh
those.
yeah, because like yeah, plus signs like if you do like a plus b, that is the same thing as like a plus b, and that's something that prettier and formatters will do for you. And it, like what Brian was saying, like Babel generator basically is prettier. It's just it prints a specific output that might not be what's pretty, but it is a similar output. So.
Yep. It's in some ways even more opinionated than prettier.
Actually, very true.
Like
there are no. That's true. There's zero config.
Yeah, it's super zero config. It's really ugly and definitely not designed to be read or coded. So
yeah, I mean that goes into like I was hoping it would be cool if like we could like it's kind of like we're re-implementing all this functionality in all these different tools. I mean, obviously we have different use cases and trade-offs. Like Babel generator isn't trying to look good. It's just trying to do it fast as possible, and then like maybe the smallest amount if you want to minify it. And then pretty is the opposite. But it would be nice if there was a way to generalize the code such that it could like output two different things or something. That seems like a lot of work, but it might be interesting. Okay, so is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, that's it.
Okay, so now we want to print out the string part. Which, yeah, I was mentioning that before. And the way we do that is... Actually, I was just thinking, it might be nice to... I don't know if this actually logs. Like, if we log this out. I don't know where it would even show up on here. Oh, it does. Okay. Great, it's like really long. Oh, dang. Oh, it logs it for... Oh, okay. Oh, cool. So I didn't even have to... I didn't even have to do this. Okay. It would be nice if we could filter out all that stuff, but so this is like this node is literally the thing I just talked about right here, and so like there's an object and it has a type annotation, it has an argument qualifier. So right now we know that this node has those parts, and it's actually the same parts in the where's that PR again? Dang. This one. So that type information part, that actually is useful for what we're doing. Wow, this is slow. Okay, so this part, right? So we know that there's an argument qualifier and type parameters. So if we go back here, I mean, we're not gonna use all this, but so we're gonna, I guess we're gonna destructure all that, right?
Yeah.
Because we need all of them, and it's good to know that these are both optional because that helps with the. We're basically gonna make an if statement to print stuff, and so we'll do like a kind of just the same thing as what this is.
Yeah, the key thing to remember is that generator is sort of like the opposite of the parsing. So
Right.
We're going to be given a tree, and as it walks that tree, it's just trying to construct a big string of code. And so when we encounter a node that has a bunch of properties on it, like in this case, argument, qualifier, type parameters, all we really need to do is get all the stuff around it and then tell generator to print the subsequent node. So in the case of an argument, the argument here is, I think, a string literal, right?
Yeah.
And Babel generator already knows how to print a string literal, so all we're really saying is, hey, generator, go print node.argument, and let the associated function for printing a string literal handle the rest of that.
Because yeah, you're right. Like, it doesn't even have to know that it's a string actually, because it just runs all the methods, and when it finds this type, it'll just, I guess it does that thing where it's like, oh, it looks at this name and it's like, oh, okay, print it out.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's really, the generator is just one gigantic map of
map.
the type to a function that prints it. And you're really just telling the order of like traversal, right? It's like, all right, we're going to print this import word, we're going to put a paren, and then print the argument. No matter what type of argument it is, the generator will go and look up the associated printing function for that, and then continue on its way.
So this print is another like thing that we already have. Let's see. And yeah, so I already okay, so another thing is like, why are we passing all this stuff? So the first argument to, so I think this is just parent, and this is the thing you're actually printing. That's all. And if you look at all these, it's like the same thing. So mostly. Okay, so we did that, and it looks like we added the string, which is good. And it's funny because I already added a semicolon. Wait, did it? I already did before, right? Okay, so that's good. So next, I mean, the next one is like pretty simple because we're just doing the right print, right?
Yeah.
So that we are actually going to pass one of the tests now, right? Yeah, because this test, or this test, yeah, because that's all it was. And so we already finished one of them. So the only thing is like we're missing, so that's like, if we didn't have these other two cascades, we might be like, oh, we're already done. But there's also these parts, right? Okay, so we want to print out this part.
And you talked about this before. It's sort of like we had to do some checks, right?
Yeah.
All right, if this node also has this thing, then print it. If it has this, then print it. So we'll walk down like the qualifier, and then the qualifier's type parameter, etc.
Let's see. Okay. Oh yeah, so we need to add this like if statement, but let's see what happens if we don't do it. So we're gonna print out the next thing, which is this part. So if we do that, it should error, right? Because it'll be like, I don't know what they're. Actually, I guess it doesn't have to error, right?
Yeah, I mean, we may not need to do an if check just because we probably always
like
it always exists. It just might be empty.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, we should do it anyway, I guess. Also, I noticed that when we did this, it doesn't have the dot, so I guess that's not part of it for some reason.
Yeah, we probably need to. That's probably where the if check makes sense. Is if it has it, we need to prepend a.
Oh, that's good. Okay, makes sense because like we need the dot here, but we don't need it there. And if we do this, then the first test is gonna fail, right? Because it'll have an extra dot at the end. Yeah. Great. So that makes sense. And then the if statement that we just want to know that it's there. So we're just doing like a null check. Cool.
Yep.
Alright, so that should fix that second test. And now we only have that last part. Right?
Yep.
And that should basically be the same thing. I guess we don't use white space here, I don't know. So I might as well just copy this. And so we're just doing this last part, which is the type parameter. We don't need this anymore, and then it's called type parameter. And then it should pass. Great, so that whole thing passed. Was there anything else we wanted to say about this? Let's see.
I don't think so.
I think
it's, starting with making sense of Babel as a whole. The generator is really cool because it reads really easily, right?
Yeah.
Print this word, print this token, print this node.
It's very straightforward, yeah. Yeah, I guess to reiterate, this part is like, we might as well just go through that this method, right? To explain. But like, we don't need to I guess it's like you're saying that it goes through the AST and just prints stuff out if it knows what it is. I guess it's recursive in that way, or you just say it's a map, I guess. And so like this print thing, let's go there. How do we even do that? Should I just...
print lives inside, where is it?
I mean, I could just search, I guess, but I don't know how I should do that.
It lives inside, in the root called printer, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, right here. Great. Okay. So there's that node and then the parent. Somewhere we want to see that map part, right? I think it's just this, right? Or let's try this, because that's the part where it's a map, right? We're passing in the name of it. And then see how it says like this method. So like I guess what happens is all of these methods get...
Yeah, basically the entire generator, all the printers are like inheriting from everything, each other as classes, and so we can just do this dot whatever.
The name of the thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's that. Cool. I think that's like most of the PR actually. Okay, so now we can fix this other error, completeness check. Okay, so the other thing is that this isn't really related to like the generator anymore, but it's more about when we're making AST nodes. So let's see. So this is in like types, right? I don't even know where the definitions. I see. TypeScript. Okay, so we handled the printing, and the other thing is that I guess we're gonna have to explain like transformation a little bit, but or creating nodes. Let's see. How should we do that? Okay, so when you're making a transform, like a plugin, you might need to insert new AST nodes, and you could do that manually. So like literally you could just do like var node equals object, and then you do like type whatever, and then all the properties. You can do that like one by one. But we also have like these helper type things, and so it's like that's in the Babel / types package, which actually, even if we go back to this, actually probably explains it better, this thing, because it'll be in there, right? I guess we could just make one here, right? Like, so we're doing a destructuring off Babel types, and then you could do like t dot. Well, actually, do we want to do that here? Let's do program. Well, I don't even know how I want to do this anymore. It's just like a helper way of making nodes. Do we have the? Let's go to the website, I guess. They'll probably explain it better. Okay. So yeah, it's just methods on how to make certain. I mean, basically, there's one for every single one. I mean, not that you need to use all of these, but if you want to make a class or a function or anything, we want to have a corresponding way of doing that. And so if we go back to the definitions, this is where
we basically just generate a helper function that lets you construct
yeah,
a node of any type as sort of a helper thing when you're, because again, Babel's in the business of transforming code, and sometimes some crazy new syntax needs to get converted to something else. Those helper functions wind up being used a bunch. And so really the thing that Henry's working on right now is we have a test inside a generator that's sort of a sanity check for us that checks to make sure all the things inside of types has an associated, I think an associated helper function, right? Is that what that's?
It looks like we need one of these define types.
Okay.
Yep. I can go to the types or plugin. Okay, let's go do like a plugin. There should be a place. So like, this is the actual TypeScript plugin that removes the types. And then there are places that are like t dot something. Let's see. Oh, there's a lot of checks actually. It's not. Oh, here it is. Okay. So here we're trying to make something. Looks like assignment expression. And so this is just like a way, like what Brian was saying, like constructing different AST nodes, and it has like helpers or error when you're not doing, maybe you put in the wrong thing, stuff like that. And so we're just creating the same thing, but for that new node that we created, called import or TSImportType. So it'd just be like t dot TSImportType or whatever, with all the stuff. I forgot if it. I think we did it like this, right? So it's just like if you wanted to make one of those, then you can create it yourself. Okay, so we're gonna define that. And I don't always know exactly what it's supposed to look like, but you can kind of just look at everything else. And so this is, there's all this stuff like aliases, visitors, fields. We probably don't have to explain what an alias is, but when you're making a Babel transform, and you're, yeah, we should probably explain that part too. Okay, so let's identify that node. Okay, so we're gonna make a really simple Babel plugin. We're gonna get rid of the type part. So here, we have our code. It just has a variable, and then in your plugin, what you're doing is after you create this AST, the plugins are kind of like the printer too, is that the methods that you create are also the names of the nodes that you're trying to modify. And so we have this. I mean, this part is just like boilerplate. And then there's this thing called a visitor object, and inside of it we're creating functions that when Babel traverses or goes through this AST like one by one, once it hits this function, it'll run the code inside of it for each of the nodes that it finds. And so the first argument is called path. I'm not going to explain what that is right now, but it has the node, and then each, so we're looking at identifier right now, which is the name of the variable. And so there's like variable declaration, and then that has a variable declaration, and it has an ID, and it has an identifier. And so we're trying to find every identifier and then like do something to it. And so in this case, all I'm doing is changing the name to B, which is probably not the way you should do it, but we're just gonna, just so you can see that it changes. And so if I do like a let like C or whatever, then now all, so basically we just made every single identifier into B, which is, yeah, you never do that, but this kind of concept, this is what you would do for like a code mod when you want to change the name, like a method or something like that. The problem is if you just do identifier, like every single identifier is changed then. Oh. So now even this identifier has changed. Or if you do like function, then that also changes to B too. Yeah, so that's that. Okay, so the alias thing is just that you can, instead of doing the names, you could like create your own thing, like ASDF. So it's like you gave us a visitor, but there's no node type, right? But you can create these aliases so that when you do put those in, they should work. So that's like an alias for statement. So there's an alias. So it looks like when we create a type for TypeScript, that has its own alias somewhere. TS type or something, right? Oh, right here, yeah. So we'll add that in because this is also a type just like the other aliases. Yeah. Okay, and then the next thing is visitor. So Brian, do you want to explain that? Or are you muted again? I don't know. Okay, maybe you're muted. I'm not sure. Is it this? Okay. Okay. So visitor, these things. So what these are. Okay. Okay, he's busy. These are the attributes that we want Babel to iterate over when it's looking through the AST. And so what that means is, so the function is a good one. So a function, let me hide all this stuff. So the function has all these different attributes on it. So it's like there's an ID, which is the name, generator. So like maybe it's a generator function. So now generator is true. Before, like if I take this out, generator is false. And then async false, so maybe it's like async, and now it's like if I put both, then it's like async generator function. And then it has a body, which is its own node. And then that has a body which it's an array because you can have multiple things in it, right? So I could do like string and then variable and then number, right? And so if I look at this, now the body has like, oh, it's a directive now. Interesting. Sorry. So the body has two elements in it. I think I explained that a little bit before. But basically, the visitor are the things that you want to traverse over because they're also nodes. You don't want to traverse over like things that are primitive types, so like this, because like generator true or false, because that itself isn't even a node. So you wouldn't define that in the visitor. So like generator and async wouldn't be visitors, but body is a block statement and has its own, like basically anything that has a type you want to turn into, or yeah, you want to be put in the visitor array. And so for this the TS import type, if we go back to here, there's like argument, qualifier, type parameters. I guess technically all of these could be visitors, because like, or I guess not. You don't have to do it for string, but you could. So we can define that here. Visitor. It's an array. Where's the oh yeah. So we're looking at these things. The string itself, and then there's this, and these are all different nodes. So then we can visit them. And so I guess we just put all of them then, I think. So argument, qualifier, type parameters. Oh, the test is probably going to pass because it doesn't actually check all these other stuff. Okay, and then the last thing is
it checks for existence. Yeah. It doesn't validate anything.
Yeah, I mean this could be a good opportunity to be like, if we got rid of one of these, like how this would affect Babel, but we can go. We should do that later. Yeah.
I guess the gist of it is we're trying to define things for here so that when we do traverse, it knows to continue traversing down these specific properties or these fields. Otherwise, it'll just kind of stop.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking that like this is a good way to kind of go through all that stuff, like finding out like we change this or remove this, like how does that affect the overall thing. Yeah, we should do that again. Okay, so next thing it looks like is fields, and I think this is just like verifying that the things that you pass in. So when you do like t dot this,
yep, it's sort of just putting some validation on a specific node type.
So the first thing is argument, and then we want to make sure that the thing that we're passing in is a string. And so we're gonna do like this, there's all these validate type things. I'm assuming there's one for string. Yeah. Assert valid type. Huh. Now I'm wondering why there's one that says validate and then there's another one that doesn't have validate. But
well, I think validate type is just like you're looking. It's like comparing to like a JavaScript primitive, like a typo, and validate type will validate the actual node type. So in this case, I think we want validate type string literal.
Oh,
but there's also certainly probably like 2 or 3 ways to do everything.
Okay. So we could just do this. Oh, I see. And then you can have an array if you want multiple. So right now we're only allowing a string, which actually this is nice because we're just it would be nice. We should just generate these based on these then. Right? In a way, it already does it for you. So, because we could be like, these are if we know these are valid nodes, then the visitor thing can get generated automatically.
Oh, I see. Yeah. No,
absolutely. This is literally just a string too. So that's another interesting.
Yeah, we could definitely do code gen from the TypeScript type back into these defined definitions.
What a good project that someone should do. That's not us.
Not it.
Okay, well, generate Babel types definitions based on this definition. Cool. What was I looking at again? Okay, whatever. I think it's just this, right? Oh no, I was looking at the that PR, right? Yeah, so there's that, and then this is like TS entity name, so I need to validate that type too. I guess that's literally the same thing then. Why do I keep? Okay, I'm using like Sublime stuff because I still am not used to using this. Qualifier, and then yeah, see, like we're literally just doing the same thing right now. Interesting observation. Okay, and then type parameters. Oh wait, the difference is actually that it's optional. So we needed to do like validate optional, right? Like this. Okay, and then type parameters. Looks like we already have something like that.
Yeah, we should have a helper like optional type.
Yeah, right here. Okay. Wow, I'm going crazy here. Cool. This is too small. Okay. Okay, so yeah, validate optional. Oh, this is optional type, so.
Yeah.
Like I feel like we could have, like they could have, yeah, figured all that out. Okay. I guess that's it. Great. So we finished that. I guess we could just commit all that, right? I guess we don't need that comment, but it's kind of nice. So I guess reviewing everything, we added a new type so that Babel generator knows what to print out. And then we just go one by one on what we think it should look like. And remember, there's no like other formatting like white space or whatever because Babel generator handles that for you. And then we added this for the builder, and then we have a test, which is just the parser test. Okay, cool. So now we can make a commit and then make a pull request.